When nations rise, they rarely believe they will fall. This has been the story of history from Babylon to Rome, from Spain to Britain. Power intoxicates and intoxication blinds. America today is drunk on the wine of its own power, and like every empire before it, it risks mistaking dominance for destiny. The greatest mistake of America will not be an economic collapse, nor a military defeat, but rather the arrogance that blinds it from seeing the shifting winds of history. And while America is blinded by pride, another nation, India, stands ready with humility and hunger to inherit the opportunities that arrogance throws away. You see, arrogance is a subtle disease. It whispers to a nation, you are exceptional, you cannot fail, others exist to imitate you, never to surpass you. This is the dangerous delusion of America. It looks at the world and still sees itself as the unchallenged leader, as if the Cold War ended yesterday, as if globalization still obeys its commands, as if technology is its eternal monopoly. Yet history shows us that power never remains static. Those who assume their position is permanent soon discover that the world has changed while they were gazing into the mirror of their own pride. Rome fell not because it lacked soldiers, but because it believed no one could challenge it. Britain's empire collapsed not because it ran out of ships, but because it believed the sun would never set on its dominion. America now risks making the same fatal assumption, that its dominance is eternal, that its cultural influence is unshakable, that its dollar will forever be the lifeblood of the world economy. But empires fall precisely when they think they are immune to falling. And that is why America's arrogance will be its undoing. This arrogance is not only external, it is internal. Look at the divisions within America itself. A house divided cannot stand. The arrogance of power has made America complacent, believing that its democracy is invulnerable, its institutions unshakable, its unity guaranteed. Yet we see growing polarization, mistrust in leadership, erosion of civic responsibility, and a culture more obsessed with spectacle than with substance. When a nation spends more time arguing than building, more time fighting itself than leading others, decline becomes inevitable. History has no sympathy for nations that destroy themselves from within. India, in contrast, watches with keen eyes. India has known the humility of being colonized, the struggle of rebuilding from poverty, the discipline of working in the shadows while others dominated the stage. This humility has become its strength. While America projects arrogance, India cultivates patience. While America assumes tomorrow will resemble yesterday, India prepares for a tomorrow that America does not even see coming. The arrogance of power blinds, but the hunger of the rising sharpens vision. And make no mistake, India is hungry, and India's vision is clear. America's arrogance also manifests in its treatment of other nations. It still seeks to dictate, to impose, to lecture, believing that the world must follow its lead. Yet the world is no longer listening as it once did. Nations of Africa, Asia, and Latin America are looking elsewhere towards partners who treat them as equals, not as dependents. India, by positioning itself as a bridge between the global south and the developed world, becomes a natural alternative to America's arrogance. While America alienates through pride, India attracts through partnership. That is how history shifts, not with sudden explosions, but with gradual movements of trust and opportunity. Consider also how arrogance affects innovation. America once thrived on invention, on pushing boundaries, on daring to dream. But arrogance has replaced curiosity with complacency. When a nation believes it has arrived, it stops striving. When it believes it has conquered knowledge, it stops learning. And when it stops learning, it begins declining. Meanwhile, India invests in science, in technology, in education, in the very fields that will define the future. Arrogance convinces America that it already knows enough. Humility convinces India that it must know more. Which mindset do you think will win the future? The irony is that America's arrogance is both its weakness and India's opportunity. Every time America underestimates India, it strengthens India. Every time America dismisses India as a follower, it creates space for India to lead. America's blindness is India's window. History rarely rewards arrogance. It rewards those who prepare, those who wait, those who recognize the moment when the arrogant stumble. And that moment is approaching, so I ask, what happens when the arrogant stumble and the humble rise? What happens when America, believing it cannot fall, makes the very mistakes that cause its fall? The answer is simple: India wins. Not because America wished it so, but because history favors the prepared, the disciplined, the patient. India has spent decades preparing, and when America's arrogance blinds it to reality, India will see clearly and act decisively. The lesson, then, is not only for America and India. It is for all of us. Pride blinds, but humility sharpens. Arrogance weakens, but patience strengthens. No nation, no leader, no person is too great to fall when arrogance takes root. And no nation, no leader, no person is too small to rise when humility lights the way. The wealth of the future is not buried beneath the soil, nor hidden in the mountains, nor trapped within the seas. The true treasure of the 21st century is not oil, not gold, not gas. It is human capital, the power of minds, the energy of youth, the creativity of populations. Nations that understand this will rise, nations that ignore it will decline, and America's next great mistake will be precisely this: undervaluing the very resource that will define the century. While America treats its people as consumers, India treats its people as creators. While America sees its population as a burden of entitlement, India sees its population as an army of potential. Look closely at the American landscape. Its birth rate is declining, its population is aging, its society is fragmenting. A nation that once prided itself on the vitality of its people now faces a crisis of spirit and numbers. It imports labor, it imports talent, it imports energy because its own wells are running dry. Even the innovation that once defined America is now sustained largely by the genius of immigrants, many of whom come from India. Silicon Valley itself would be half empty were it not for the Indian mind, yet arrogance blinds America to this fact. It celebrates technology, but forgets the human brains that produce it. It celebrates wealth, but ignores the youth who must carry it forward. And so America's next mistake will not simply be in policy, but in perspective. The failure to see its people as its greatest asset. When education is commodified, when healthcare is neglected, when opportunity is concentrated in the hands of a few, a nation is quietly digging its own grave. America, despite its wealth, has millions drowning in student debt, millions without access to proper health care, millions trapped in cycles of inequality. What kind of future can a nation build when its own people are suffocating? A nation that undervalues its citizens has already declared bankruptcy, not of money but of vision. Now contrast this with India, a nation of over 1 billion, often dismissed as overcrowded, as chaotic, as too vast to manage. Yet what the world fails to see is that India's greatest challenge has become its greatest strength, its people. With one of the youngest populations on Earth, India is not staring at demographic decline, but at demographic opportunity. The average Indian is young, ambitious, and restless for progress. This restless energy is the fuel of the future. And India, unlike America, has begun to see its people not as a liability, but as the very foundation of its rise. Yes, India has its challenges: poverty, inequality, infrastructure. But let us not be deceived. Nations do not rise when conditions are perfect. They rise when people turn challenges into opportunities. India's young minds are filling global classrooms, leading global corporations, and designing global technologies. Every Indian engineer in Silicon Valley, every Indian CEO in a multinational company, every Indian researcher in a laboratory abroad is a living testament to the nation's human capital. The world is already benefiting from India's people. The only question is, when will India itself fully harness them? America's arrogance makes it believe that power lies in weapons, in dollars, in influence. But what is a weapon without a soldier to wield it? What is a dollar without a worker to earn it? What is influence without people to sustain it? Power is not found in institutions alone, but in the flesh and blood of citizens. And here is where America falters, for it invests more in preserving its past than in preparing its people for the future. India, in contrast, is building schools, expanding universities, advancing digital literacy, and fostering entrepreneurship. America spends billions to fight wars abroad. India spends billions to educate its young at home. This difference in priorities will decide the century. America's arrogance will blind it to the obvious truth that the future belongs to nations with people ready to shape it. India is nurturing an army of innovators, dreamers, and builders, while America is losing its young to despair, disillusionment, and division. The opioid crisis, the mental health epidemic, the culture of violence, these are not merely social issues. They are symptoms of a nation that has forgotten how to value its people. Think of it this way: the 19th century belonged to those who mastered land, the 20th century to those who mastered industry, but the 21st century belongs to those who master human capital. Land can be conquered, machines can be built, but human potential must be cultivated. India, with its youthful population, is cultivating it. America, with its arrogance, is squandering it, and when history judges, it will not ask which nation had the strongest military, but which nation raised the strongest generation. This is why the future tilts toward India, because while America talks of leadership, India is raising leaders. While America obsesses over preserving dominance, India is preparing its people to create it, and the people, ordinary men and women, are the true engines of history. Armies do not march without citizens, economies do not grow without workers, and revolutions do not spark without the restless energy of the young. The story of this century will not be written in the halls of Congress or the chambers of parliaments alone. It will be written in classrooms, in startups, in research labs, in communities where human capital is transformed into human achievement. History has always been shaped not only by the resources nations possess, but by the choices they make with those resources. Power, wealth, and opportunity are meaningless when squandered by poor judgment. Great powers do not collapse simply because they run out of money or soldiers. They collapse because of strategic missteps, because they mistake aggression for strength, isolation for independence, and arrogance for vision. And America, standing where it stands today, risks making that same fatal error. Its next great mistake will be a strategic one, And in that mistake, India will find its opening to step forward as the world's new center of gravity. America has long believed that its dominance rests on its ability to project power across the world. Military bases scattered across continents, wars waged in faraway lands, sanctions imposed with the stroke of a pen. But these tools, once symbols of strength, are now becoming symbols of overreach. A nation that spends more to fight wars abroad than to build futures at home is a nation setting itself on a path to exhaustion. Empires do not collapse when defeated from without. They collapse when drained from within. And in this, America risks repeating the very mistake that brought down empires before it. Look at America's recent choices. Endless wars in the Middle East consumed trillions of dollars and countless lives, yet left behind instability rather than stability. Interventions justified in the name of freedom have too often sown chaos instead. Even now, America prefers confrontation to cooperation, sanctions to dialogue, military showmanship to genuine partnership. This is not strategy, it is short-term reaction masquerading as long-term vision. And every reactionary step pushes allies further away, strengthens rivals, and opens the door for others to claim the mantle of leadership. India, in contrast, has chosen a different path. It does not seek domination but influence. It does not seek to control but to cooperate. Where America alienates, India builds bridges. Consider how India positions itself with remarkable balance, strong ties with the West, yet friendships with Russia, participation in global trade, yet solidarity with the global South, cooperation with advanced economies, yet empathy for developing nations. This strategic balance makes India a more reliable partner in a multipolar world. While America insists on being obeyed, India listens, negotiates, and offers partnership. The 21st century will not be dominated by those who can shout the loudest, but by those who can bring the most people together. Strategic mistakes are rarely visible in the moment. They are revealed only in hindsight, but the signs of America's miscalculation are already clear. Its protectionist instincts threaten to isolate it from the very globalization it once championed. Its confrontations with rising powers, especially China, risk draining its energy in rivalry rather than channeling it into innovation. Its neglect of the global South, where most of the world's population lives, is ceding influence to nations like India that understand that leadership is not merely about wealth but about trust. The vacuum America creates through arrogance and missteps will not remain empty. Nature abhors a vacuum, and history fills it swiftly. India stands ready to step into that space. And why India? Because India has the credibility that America is losing. It presents itself as a democracy, yet unlike America, it does not impose its values by force. It speaks the language of development, not domination. It has lived the experience of poverty and colonialism, so when it speaks to nations of Africa, Asia, and Latin America, it speaks as a brother, not as a master. This moral legitimacy gives India a soft power that America, despite all its military might, cannot buy. Power without legitimacy collapses under its own weight. Legitimacy without arrogance builds a foundation for the future. The greatest tragedy of America's coming mistake is that it will believe it is acting from strength, when in truth it will be acting from weakness. It will mistake coercion for leadership, military intervention for diplomacy, isolationism for independence. Yet every sanction imposed, every alliance strained, every war waged will push the world further away from its orbit. And every step America takes in the wrong direction will be a step India takes forward into global prominence. India's rise will not be dramatic in the way America's was. It will not be built on wars won or enemies defeated. It will be gradual, steady, almost quiet. It will rise through trade, through technology, through diplomacy, through education, through the ability to build coalitions rather than demand submission. The world is tired of a leader who commands. It is ready for a leader who collaborates. And in that readiness, India finds its chance. We must understand, therefore, that history is not shaped by accidents alone, but by patterns of decision. America is repeating a familiar pattern, the pattern of overextension, of alienating allies, of underestimating rivals, of clinging to old models in a world that has changed. India, meanwhile, is crafting a new pattern, the pattern of inclusivity, of balance, of forward thinking. One nation is writing its decline with its own pen. The other is riding its ascent with patience and discipline. So the question is not whether America will make mistakes. It is certain that it will. The question is whether India is ready to seize the moment those mistakes create. I say to you, the signs suggest that India is ready. It has the people, it has the vision, it has the humility that arrogance denies. When America falters, India will not need to push. It will simply need to step into the space left open.